Alright guys, Coach Brian again from minlax.com, hiding here behind the stick. So, we're getting ready to finish up our bottom of our center string in our traditional pocket. Tie that off, we'll tie off the rest of our nuts, and we'll be good. So, first off, we've got our blue strings that we've been using coming all the way down. So, what we're going to do is we're going to hold off on those for just a second. We're going to go to the outside here, and again you guys are looking at the back of the head. I'm going to grab my white string right there, and I'm going to bring it around the leather here on the outside, up between the two in the middle, kind of get this curl out of there, and now it's going to come back out right through there, and I'm going to pull this guy nice and tight. So I start pulling it around, and again we're going to try and get all the slack out of there. Alright, there we go. And I'm going to pull this string through, and we'll get that nice and tight. And that's going to loop over and tie off onto itself. Alright, so we got that. Now we're going to take our blue string from this side, and now it's going to go up in between these two leathers. It's going to come, get this out of the way for you, and now it's going to come over that leather and back out, and then through this loop we just made. And there we go. And once again we want to pull all the slack out of here. Get that nice and tight and pull this through. And a little more slack we can get through there. Alright, now that's tied off. We need to go back to this side. So let's get our white string, and we want to make sure we've got the same distance. So I'm looking at 1 unit here, looking at 1 unit over here. Awesome. So once again, we're going to bring this tail end just hanging down here. It's going to come around our leather from the inside, and it's going to come back down through the next one. And we're going to pull it out through here, and again I'm going to get all this slack out of here. That nice and tight. Pull this through and tighten that up. Alright, so that white one's good. Now we're going to grab our blue. Again, make sure we haven't goofed up the spacing, the tightness or anything through here. And we're going to do the same thing we did with the blue on the other side. So we're going to take our loose end right here, bring that up, try and clean some of this up for you. Bring this up through the leathers there, pull that slack through, getting twists out, and it's going to come down between these next two leathers. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring it through this loop we just made. And now I'm going to get that twist out of there, and again we're going to pull this nice and tight. And then pull that slack through once you get as tight as you can. Alright, and it looks like this one can go a little bit tighter. And just get in the side and just kind of tease these strings through. There we go. And I got that. Alright, looking good. So I'm going to adjust stuff up top. We got a little twisted up in there. There we go. And you'll just have to slide these kind of up and down a little bit on the leathers. Get everything even, get everything lined up nice and tight. Alright. So, next step I want to do is tie these two blue ones together. So, we're just going to do the first knot, kind of like you're tying your shoes. So it's like one over the other through that loop. And we're going to go ahead, pull that tight in through there. And so it stays. Go ahead and turn this into a square knot, which means we're going to loop these over again. This one's going to be on top. Pull this one. It's going to come through on this side. And we'll pull that up. And again, let's get that real tight. Get all the slack out of there. And another little Minlax trick I'll teach you guys. To keep this nice and tight. You can do it with your shooters too. Go ahead with one end of the string. Loop this around. Bring the end through. And I'm just going to keep this nice and tight next to this knot. Tighten this down right up against that knot. So that end's not going anywhere. We'll do the same with this end. Just make that loop. Bring your string through. And go ahead and tighten this down all the way against that knot. And that's not going anywhere. So now we got those. These can get trimmed down. We're ready to go. Alright, now we got these white ones still sitting around. What we're going to go ahead and do with these guys is just tie these off the same way we did these blue ones. So let me tuck this blue out of the way so we're not having to stare at it. Alright. So I'm just going to go right under here and tie these together. We're going to use that same knot that we did before. I want to be careful we're not pulling these way too tight because that'll loosen up everything else we've done through here. So we're just going to get it tight so that it stays and then do that same knot. Keep that tension on there and then we'll pull in. Alright, and now once again we're going to tie this little loop knot again to keep this secure. So loop that around, bring that through, and then just start forcing this knot all the way down so it joins the rest of it. Pull that slack out. Alright, that end's not going anywhere, just have this end to do. Once again, make that loop. We're going to bring the end through, and then force this knot. Uh-oh, hope we're still in view. Let me sneak around here to the side. Alright, so note to you future guys out there stringing sticks doing videos, don't knock the camera. Alright, so kind of bring that in and just tighten this knot down right next to our larger knot. Alright, and then that's not going anywhere. And once again, we can chop those off. So, almost done here. We just have to go ahead and finish off our side. Let me go ahead, drop this down so I'm staying on camera. And here's what we're looking at. It's our last one, so we're not tying off. We're not looped into anything through here. We're just sitting there. So, we'll tie this once we have our whole pocket and everything else tightened up. So we're going to go ahead and get situated doing that right now. Let's change our camera angle. Uh-oh, kind of scary. Hope we don't tip. Try and stall, go quickly through here so you guys don't get bored and click something else. Alright, so what we want to do, go ahead and back this out. There we go. So you can definitely see we've got our pocket. Bring this out of the mount. See, we've got a channel. Got to form that still. This is looking good. So I'm going to go ahead, cut off these excess strips here. Where'd my scissors go? There we are. Real quick, I'm just going to come through and cut these. I'll actually trim them down more later and melt those down. For right now, I just want to get this slack out of the way. So extra strings, those are junk. I've got a huge bag full of shortcut strings that I'll use for some stuff, and we'll probably never get to, but kind of a little passion, maybe not a passion, maybe, I don't know, some other word. Getting late, can't think of the word for passion. Obsession, that's the one. Whole bunch of piles of strings. So if you need a bunch of short little pieces, give me a jingle, I can help you out. So, back to the stick. What we're going to do now is start forming this pocket. So get back into the mount. Alright, I like to use this pocket expander from Gate. It used to look like this, but it broke, so now I just had this hat. But that's okay, this is the part I need. And it also has this metal piece. So what we do is we're just going to put this pocket pounder, or the expander, slide it into the stick, and we're going to put it where we want that pocket to be. So for this stick, that's going to be our pocket. And I take the metal bar, and we slide it across, wedge it in through one of the holes in the metal piece, and slide it straight through. And then we want to kind of get a bird's eye view looking down the top of our stick and making sure that the pocket is everything sticking out where it wants to be. We don't have one leather that's way higher, way lower, moving around than the other one. And start kind of gauging this thing, see how it's going to look. Make sure this is nice and even. Alright, so now the next thing I like to do is start grabbing these leathers, kind of tapping on them a little bit and seeing if they're really loose. And if they are, we need to start pulling the leather down through the stick. These are good, these side ones are good too. Your first couple, you'll have some loose stuff through here you'll have to work on. Yeah, this one's a little bit loose, so we kind of feed through, kind of pull down a little bit on that leather, slide these mounts back up. Alright, so now we're ready to start making this pocket even better. First things first, I like to twist my outside leathers a little bit inwards, so it's going to kind of grab that pocket, create like a little bit of a nest. So pretty simple, just going to grab a finger on here and another finger here, and I'm just going to twist a little bit to get it to slide inside that knot. Same thing here, just kind of twist a little bit to slide inside that knot. And one more down here, and then again, depending on your head, how many holes you've done will be how many of these you'll want to twist and kind of spin around. So that's good on this side. We'll go ahead and do it to this side. So again, just going to kind of twist, get it to slide in that knot just a little bit. And this one. And that's something you can do before you jam this pocket expander in there, or you can just put a lacrosse ball in there. It's all going to work. Alright, so again, that's come through there. Next thing I want to do is start checking the tension of these strings. So I just kind of run my fingers down the middle, kind of checking these. Anything that's really loose, we're going to have to tighten up and run through. Your first couple times, you're going to have a lot of these that'll be loose, so you have to run them through. When you get good, then you're alright. You'll still have to do these outside ones, because that's the first one we did, and as we start stringing everything together, the tension starts forming differently. So here's where we will have to start making a couple changes, but that's okay. Alright, so we got these through here, kind of pull your leathers down, do that pretty cool min-lax bottom string we all learned how to string. And so what we want to do now is, this is going to be the depth of our pocket. We want these strings to be at their tension point right here. So it's, if they're loose, I can run my fingers down. As you can see, they're getting caught all over the place. We've got to take that slack out. So we're going to start up here towards the top, find a place where it's tight and where it starts getting loose, and right about in here is where we're going to start working. So I'll actually bring this finger up and over this string here and kind of pull just a little bit. I mean, we're looking at bringing in maybe even one knot in the string where it's kind of braided together, and then kind of work that bit of slack around just a little bit, bring it through this next knot, and again we're just picking up a little bit of slack each time and bringing that down to here, and again I'll kind of spin that, kind of pull this in when we're first getting going and get that secure, and then we'll work down to this next one, pull that slack through, pull it down through here. Sometimes you'll even want to twist these to get them to relock, since we're changing if we're pulling a lot of slack through. And again, just start feeding it through on this side, pull it in. There we go. And again, a little more slack through this side. Pull that through. Pull it through, and again I'll kind of twist it to give it that nice crisp lock. And again, Now you can start to see we're getting a lot of slack, so we just keep pulling all this through. And kind of twist it there to get it to cinch into place. And again, pull this slack through. And we kind of twist everything there, make sure it's locking up, lining up. And then you kind of, as we're going, kind of bring your finger down, just make sure you didn't miss any. We're doing good here, so just keep pulling the slack through. Alright. Again, pull this slack all the way through. I'll kind of twist it a little bit, kind of lock that in place. And it gets to be tricky if you get bigger fingers, bigger hands, kind of get inside here when you get the pocket pounder and all your tools. I actually find this gate pocket spreader works better with the fatter end broken off, because otherwise I'd be right where my hands are trying to be right now. Well, at least the inside hand. Not saying you should go out and buy one and break it, but you know, if it breaks, it's not the end of the world. Also, it's a really shiny black plastic, really smooth. What you want to do is cover it in a little bit of grip tape like I did, and it's going to hold in that pocket a lot better. So once again, we're still pulling all this slack through, getting that there. Almost done, kids. Well, with one side. And got our slack, pull that through, and I'll go finish pulling it through down here. And I think I fell off camera. Alright, so again, we're just going to finish up with our slack, get that, and then we'll just kind of hold that in there. We'll tie this in a second. First, we want to make sure the other side's ready to go. So, again, I'm going to run my finger down these strings. As soon as I find something where there isn't as much tension, it's where we start tightening. And since it's our white thread with the strikers, we can go ahead and count on the other side how many are out, and then we can just match it to over here. So I'm going to start right about here, I think, so I've got a little bit too much slack. We'll pull that through, pull this around. And again, I'm just going to go ahead and count over here on this side. Looks like I've got 1.5, almost 1 3/4 exposed. And it's a little bit more over here, so I'll go ahead and pull a little bit more through. Really want to keep, you know, a nice uniform. Always have that symmetry, otherwise your pocket will be funny. So again, we can keep pulling this through. Get that slack through there. If you need to, twist that a little bit to lock it back in place. Again, we'll take another count. So looks like I'm just about 1.5, and coming through here just a little bit over. So we'll go ahead and tighten that just a bit, and then start bringing that slack through. Alright. And once again, we'll get our count. Looks like 2 even. Looks like we're 2 even here. How about that? And keep pulling the slack. Again, I'll try and stay on camera for you. And I will apologize, this is not the angle I normally do it, and I'm not used to talking the whole time. I normally listen to music, and I won't tell you what music I normally listen to in traditionals because it could be a little embarrassing. So we'll just let you guys assume it's something that's really awesome and that rocks. And we'll keep this going, pull our slack, and again, we'll get our count. Looks like we're 1.5, 1 3/4. Tighten that just a little, and we're at 1.5 of that 1 3/4. Pull this part of the slack through. Oh, we're getting close. Alright, again, pull this down. Make sure these are all still lined up. Get that little twist, and we'll get our count. So coming across, looks like we have a solid 2.5, and this one's way far out there, so we're going to pull a lot more slack in. So we need to be in here. Let's see, did something happen to that slide down? Alright. And we'll go ahead, tighten that just a little bit more. Sorry guys, I gotta check this out for a second. And pull this through. Alright, that's looking more respectable. So, now we're going to start pulling the rest of our slack through. Cinch this down. And probably get a little more slack out of this. And that has slid down a little bit. So we'll go ahead and slide this back up the leather. Keep everything lined up. And pull our slack through. Excuse me. Alright. We've got that. Finish pulling our slack through down here. And I'll make sure I don't slide off camera again. Alright. So, pulling our slack through, go ahead and get a line count. Looks like 2.5. That's about what we are. Go ahead, pull this through again. Always pulling that slack, twisting it up, just going to get that to lock in. At this point we're looking at about 2. And over here we're a little more exposed. So again, always keep that bird's eye view, make sure everything's lining up, and we're going to cinch that in a little bit more. And start pulling down low. Get that slack coming through. There we go. At this point you might be able to see this leather starting to bunch up. So we're just going to go in and pull it down through these knots. Same thing all the way through to the bottom. And then we can pull that through our min-lax bottom string and cinch that down. Do that a little bit to the other side. Just pulling some of that leather through. And do that min-lax bottom string. Alright, so we're still going there. Let's go ahead and make sure we're staying in zoom. Alright. So we've got just a little bit more slack to pull through here. Make sure this pocket spreader is in this right spot. That's all looking good. And we'll pull that slack. Alright. So now we want to, I guess I can let you guys see what I'm doing. So we're going to go ahead, pull the rest of this through. Kind of keep cinching that down. Looks like we're 2. Over on this side we're 2. I like it. Now we're going to pull the slack through here. Again, we're going to take our count. Looks like 1.5, 2. Right about there. And we'll pull this slack through. And then once again, pull our slack from the head. And we're going to count from this side right around 2. And as we pull this slack through, loosen that just a little. There we go. And once again, pull the last bit of slack from the bottom. Thread that through. We'll get our number count from over here. Oh, it's pretty close. We're kind of loose there. So we'll go ahead and tighten this up. And you might find it's easier to kind of loosen it. Pull from in here to tighten. And then reset it. And that's looking good there. 1 and 1. Alright, now we can just pull our slack through. And that's looking the same there. We've got just over 1 there. And I got us a little bit tight over here. So we'll loosen that up. Back this out just a little bit. Alright. And now that's ready to go. And once again, we're going to want to get our bird's eye view. We're going to look over this, make sure we haven't pulled one of the leathers in too tight, make sure that our pocket spreader hasn't goofed us up at all. Look in there, make sure everything's looking okay. Alright. And looks like we got just about hanging in there. Cool. Alright, and then the last test we can kind of do is to see how close these strings are to the same length. and I'm pretty close, so I like it. We'll go with that. And sometimes, once you do one side, and then you go and do your other side, you might end up having to ratchet by going back to the first side. So we'll do that just a little bit to kind of tighten up. And so, again, we're going to slide over here, get this up in the air so you guys can see. But we'll start to pull in right in through here. Kind of adjust this leather, bring it down just a little bit. Same thing, bring it through and down here, and then right from our bottom string, and lock that in. There we go, keep getting that bird's eye view. Alright, so again, if we have any slack, you can kind of pull it through, even everything up. Alright. So we've got that. Now we're ready to tie off our knots. So let me go ahead. Ooh, I would have lost the camera. I would not be going pro. Alright. That should be good. So we've got the end of our white string here. We just need to tie this guy off. So I'm just going to loop it around, bring it through the loop, and then we just want to make sure this ties off as close to the plastic as possible. Right in there, nice and snug. Spin this guy around. Let's do the same over here. So, get our string, go ahead, loop this guy around, bring that through the loop. Go ahead, I like to kind of pinch off in there, hold that, and then pull this part down through and get that as close to the head as possible. This is not actually that simple, but getting it really tight next to the plastic takes some practice. So, practice, I guess is what I'm saying. Alright, so now we're looking at our stick. That's looking good. I got my overhead view. That's looking good. We've got everything tied off. Again, we can cut these strings, go ahead, melt those down. But for right now, this is going to be Coach Brian from LACROSSE, and I'll see you guys on our last video when we're doing our shooting strings. Alright.